there, welcome to 2D Web Solutions, where you ask the questions and we find solutions. Today is episode 2. I am Kerry Carron, founder of The Ultimate Solution, LLC.
I am Arelthia Phillips, founder of Pintop Solutions, LLC. Today's topic is getting to where you are. So, Kerry, let's just go on jump into our questions. But before we do that, let's just remind people that if they want to ask us questions, that they can ask us questions at 2dwebsolutions.com. And we'll go through the questions and choose questions based on the topic for today. So our topic for today, what made you decide to start a business, Kerry?
Wow. Well, I was actually thrown into starting my own business. I was working in a job, and the position that I was working in was completely dissolved, so my job was going to be no longer. I had about 2 weeks' notice, and I had been dabbling in web design and building websites and that sort of thing, affiliate marketing. And I had also been wanting to start a business and work from home and looking for ways to work out of the house less and work from home more. And so when the position dissolved, I decided there's no time like the present than that day, and so I decided to start my business.
Okay, great. So it's interesting that, for you it was your you had a break, your job was they dissolved your position and everything. For me it was just a little bit different because I was a teacher, and as a teacher summertime comes around and it's like, okay, what am I going to do with myself? And at the time, I was bored. So I created my own website to sell t-shirts and stuff, and then someone else asked me to create a website for them, so I created a website for them. And then it just started from there, really, when all of a sudden someone else asked, hey, can you do this for me, and how much will you charge? And it's like, oh, people are paying me for this. So all of a sudden, it just started to happen.
How did you specifically get introduced to WordPress?
Well, WordPress, that happened because one of the people that asked me to create a website, I knew that they could not handle just HTML and CSS themselves even after I created the website for them. So I was looking for a solution where they could actually put in their own content, something as simple as Microsoft Word. And so I came across WordPress, started playing around with it, realized that, hey, I can do this. I remember it was strange because I created my first WordPress theme from scratch. And it was like, oh, well, why did you do that? Because I could. It was like, I can do this. I'm going to do it. And that was just the start of me working with WordPress, and I've been using it ever since. I think that was like around 2008.
Okay.
So what about you?
I was introduced to WordPress somewhere in the vicinity of 2006 or 2007. I think WordPress was at 2.8. I think. I don't know. I look back and I'm like, do I remember the orange bar? I don't remember. But the way I was introduced to it is I was trying to build a website and had been building just HTML pages, and really it was just a hobby. And I was like, oh, there has to be an easier way to make all these changes to these pages without all of this, code that I have to write and rewrite and make sure that it's perfect before I push it up to the server. And someone said, oh, you should try WordPress. So I hopped online and I researched WordPress, and I get in there. I don't know if I was on the .com or if I was on the or what I was, but I was like, I cannot figure this out. No, I can't do this. We need to have somebody else do the design and development, and then they can show me how to do it. And I was the client from hell. I was that person, but I knew I was, and I warned him ahead of time. I'm like, I'm going to ask all the questions. I am going to go in. I am going to break things. I am going to work on it because I want to know how this works. So it was about a year after we had our custom website built, and I was like, why is he doing this? Why isn't he just using WordPress? Then I figured out how to use WordPress.
Cool. So, with all that, Kerry, how did you decide you were a web designer or a web developer? How did you decide on which one you were going to be?
It's interesting you asked that. I remember one time going to a WordCamp, and I met up with Corey Miller and Lisa Sabin-Wilson. And Lisa, I was just getting into it. I mean, like brand new. We're talking probably months after I started my own business per se. And Lisa says, "So are you a designer or a developer?" And I'm like, I don't know. So I'm like, well, I know I like to build the websites, and that's all I knew. And it wasn't until after I really got into um, using Builder by iThemes and putting the website together in pieces, knowing that it was the design, making the design fit together, that I knew I was a designer. But I also knew I had the ability to learn enough code. If I wanted to be a developer, I could go that direction too. How about you?
Well, for me it was interesting because I have a background in programming, so I was already into code and everything because I started out a long time ago, with C and C Sharp and Visual Basic and C++ and all that stuff. But when I got into WordPress, the code was the first thing that really grabbed me, because that's where I really enjoy that. Because I mean, I can design and I can spend time working on design, but for me the best part is the development. And it's funny because even when I try to kind of push myself as a website designer, my clients always seem to want me to develop. They always come back to me as their developer and not as their designer. So, the clients kind of set the pace for a lot of that.
That's why we work so well as a team, because we can feed off of each other's strengths and I don't want to say weaknesses because they're definitely not weaknesses, but lesser strengths
Yes,
for lack of
yes.
a better word.
Yes, and it's interesting because you brought up the starting out with iThemes and everything, and I think that's where we actually first met was in an iThemes chat. But I'll save that story for another time. Um,
Yeah, we have to give people the stuff to tease them to ask us the questions over on the website, right?
yes,
Because we'll
yes,
answer anything pretty much.
yeah, yeah.
All right, so let's move on to number 3. Can you list 3 tips for beginners who think they're ready to move to the next step of becoming a web designer or a web developer?
Okay, 3 tips. Okay, so the first tip I would give someone is to start doing whichever one you think you want to do. Start with your own projects first. Just start doing. And the more you do, the better you get, the more you understand. And then it makes it a lot easier when you're trying to get customers and get clients because what's possible and what you can do, and what you can't do, what you may need a little assistance on. So first of all, let's just do it. Start, take action. That's the first step towards accomplishing any task. The second thing I would say is remember that even though you may be focusing on web design or development, whichever one, first and foremost, it is a business. So marketing, you are a marketer first before anything else. If you cannot market yourself, you will not have a business. Um, Third, make connections. Don't just sit behind your computer and only look at that computer screen. Reach out to people, get to know people in the space that you're in the community that do what you do, people that, not just people that need your services, but people that do what you do. Get to know them.
Hmm.
So what about you, Carrie? Your 3 tips for beginners.
Okay, I had to like write some things down because some of the things that you said I don't want to repeat. And they're excellent because they're right on mark. Okay, so I remember when I was first getting into this, one of the things that I thought I was going to really want to do was affiliate marketing, and I remember talking to a successful affiliate marketer, and he gave me a bit of advice. Thank you, John Lee Hacker. Um, and he won't watch this, but if it gets out there ever, maybe I can tag him or something like that. He told me pick a product and stick with it. There's a lot of programs out there that you can purchase that'll help you to grow your business or whatnot. Pick one So in other words, don't get shiny object syndrome and don't go chasing things. Pick one thing and master it. And then once you master it, then you can, move on and get other things. So that was one thing. The second thing is along the same lines of what your number 2 was. I'm just going to word it a little bit different. Remember that no matter what business you're in the people business. You're dealing with people, so customer service and patience and all kind of the stuff we talked about in episode 1. You really need to be able to communicate well. As we used to say in air traffic, clear, concise communication. And that works in any business. And my last tip is something that I've always told my children. Whenever they would ask me a question when they were really little, they would say, "How do you know so much?" And I would laugh because I don't know so much. There's so much more I don't know compared to what I do know. So I would always tell them, because I ask questions, read books, and do my due diligence. So those would be the things that I would say. Ask questions and don't be afraid of the answers. Read a lot of books to find your own information, and that goes online as well as searching and ebooks or anything you can find online is, in my mind, still reading. And then do your due diligence. Do the research that you need to fulfill whatever it is that you need to make your business successful. And that's it.
Great. So, Kerry, and that's a good lead into our 4th question, which is, how did you learn to do what you do?
Oh, man. I wasn't afraid to ask the questions, and I did, and I asked a lot of what I thought was stupid questions. And I love that in our WP network group, that's one thing that everybody who's new comes in and says, "Here's a stupid question." Everybody who's been there always comes back, "There are no stupid questions." It's like there are none. So ask. And we do get the same questions over and over, and that's okay too. I just did it. I was just like, okay, I was not going to let a task get in the way of me accomplishing anything, and I guess I'm just stubborn and tenacious. And I was like, nope, I'm going to figure this out. I've got to find a way to do it, so just do it.
Great, great.
How do you approach that?
Well, for me, the biggest way I learn how to do what I do is by doing it. I will dig in. I will tear it apart. I will find the information, whether it's reading through the codex, whether it's reading through white pages, documents, reading books, listening to books. It's kind of like you said when you tell your kids, you just have to seek those answers, seek the answers that you want. Because a lot of times we want answers, but unless you use those answers, they do you no good. So you search for answers and you have to take action, or without action, it's just information. But you want to use that to help you go to the next level. So for me, it's really just doing a lot of doing. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have the college degrees and everything, but I will say that my actual time spent doing serves me a lot better. So.
What is that one quote, something along the lines, it takes 10,000 hours to master anything, or something like that? The first year I was in business, I figured out how much time I was spending online, and it was well over 10,000 hours. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, my family knows I'm online for sure.
Yes, yes.
And in reference to doing, don't you love Nathan Ingram's statement of what he calls the dang it method?
Oh, yeah. The dang it method, yes. You just do it until you get it. Just keep doing it. Oops, that didn't work. Now I know how not to do it. Oh, but I learned how to do something else, and you just keep going.
Have you ever been designing or developing something, and you're trying to make something work one way, and you put something in, and it does something completely different that is like way cooler than what you thought it was going to do in the first place, and you're like, well, that's not what I wanted, but I think I like that effect. I'm going to keep that.
Yeah. Or you just save that for another time. Oh, let me file that away, put that here so I can have it for later. Yeah. That a lot. I've learned a lot like that. A lot.
Yeah.
So.
There's nothing beats actually getting in there and just trying it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, that's okay. Just know how to get back to where you started.
Yeah, it's funny because I was reading, I think it's Dan Kennedy who says, that if you're scared of failing, if you're scared of messing up, you'll never do anything, So sometimes you just got to put yourself out there and do it. And if it works, it works. If it does not work, hey, take what you learned and move on to the next thing. So,
Yep. And what is it? Was it Wayne Gretzky? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
yes,
Something like
definitely,
that.
definitely,
That's
yes.
cool. All right, so now we're going to move on to question number 5, which is probably our most difficult question of the day. So here's the question, and it's very simple, but it's very complex. And I'm going to there's probably going to be another question that you have in reference to what I ask you. So full-time or part-time?
So, for me, I think before I answer, okay, let me put it this way. It depends because when someone asks me that question, should I go full time, just jump in and do it? Well, it depends. What is your life like? What lifestyle do you need? Do you have a significant other or someone else there to help carry the load? And are they supportive of you just jumping ship full force, all feet in? Or do you need something to make sure there's food on the table and the bills are paid? For me, it's okay. Yeah, I like the privileges of my son being able to go to a private school. I like all this, but I also have a husband. So my answer is going to be different than someone else's answer. But I love what I do too. So it's like I get to do multiple things of what I do. I get to give back. I get to go and give back to kids that are underprivileged, in not necessarily the best socioeconomic environment, but then I get to do what I love in my business too. So for me, it's part-time. You know, it's this is what I'm going to do part-time until I decide that okay, I don't want to teach anymore. I just need a break. But as long as I still feel like my heart is there for me to teach these kids, then it's going to be part time for me. And like I said, for everybody, could I go full time? If I really wanted to, yeah, I feel like I could.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things. So, Carrie, how do you feel when someone asks, should it be should you be full time or part time?
Well, I've kind of approached it from both directions. Like I said when we first started, I kind of got thrown into it, so I was doing it full time. And at the same time, I did have to make ends meet. Now, one of the ways that I personally chose to handle that was I actually was qualified for unemployment along that time. So while I was receiving the unemployment, I made sure that my business was completely self-sufficient, and I bootstrapped it along the way, only paying for and buying the things that I needed in order to make the business run, so that I would not extend the family expenses and have to use, the unemployment to run the business. But I also used that time during the unemployment to build the business to a point where when the unemployment was gone, that at least the unemployment money was going to be replaced with business income that I could pay myself with. So it was a balance there. So in that sense, I went full time. Now, and recently, I did decide to take on a part-time job outside of the home, and I did that for a couple of reasons, mainly my health, because I was finding I was behind my desk too much, and I was getting no exercise, and my body was withering away. I felt like I was 100 years old, and I was, close to the age I am now. We'll just go with that. Okay, so in any case, I really think you hit the nail on the head when you say you have to balance it. You have to look at your lifestyle and what it is you want from your business. Um, Even though I'm working part-time out of the home, I still feel that my business is a full-time business. And I don't know if that's because I still put in, I know I put in at least 30 hours a week. And depending on what job you have, 30 to 40 hours or more is typically full-time. So I kind of judge it on that. Plus, I guess my heart is it's a full-time business, which I'd much rather be doing than working part-time. So the nice thing about working part-time though is you do have that steady, regular income, whereas a designer or developer, you may not always have that because there's ebbs and flows when there's business available to projects available and when there's not.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic in itself. How do you keep the projects flowing and kind of prepare or prevent those, the feast or famine times and stuff. So it's like sometimes I find that when you're solely dependent on your business to provide for you, especially when you're starting out, you can make some not so great decisions.
Oh yeah.
So I think, and I think the best thing that someone can do is just to really consider your situation and think about it. If you really want to go jump in full time with nothing else, make sure you have at least some money in the bank. Have you some savings, not a lot of debt, things like that. I don't know, Carrie, how you feel about Dave Ramsey, but his financial piece is great. So I think that's something that's really can be very beneficial.
Yeah, I've also I've listened to a few things by Susie Orman. She's a little. There's some things I like and some things I don't like in her approach. But there's always a lot of good information in anybody's information, but you have to pick and choose what it is that you like best. Robert Kiyosaki also has a book in his Rich Dad series called Before You Quit Your Job, which is also really good. It gives you, things to think about, and even iThemes has had some live trainings on that sort of topic, and it's great to, again, this comes to doing your due diligence. Go out there and listen to what other people are saying. Do your own research. Pick and choose and put together what works best for you because it is going to be different for everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
So, do you want to give today's today's tip?
So let's see. Today's tweet tip is be curious, take action, and just do it. You have to just do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. Well, that's going to wrap it up. So as always, we encourage you to submit your web design and development questions for our next episode on our website at 2D Web Solutions. And I'll let you wrap it up.
all right. So each episode we answer up to 5 different but related questions, finding you the solutions you need to the aspects of web design and development.
So long, guys.
Bye.